Fortunately, I ran out of town, and my family moved to a different district, which means I moved to another school, and I never got their number. If you want to know how I manipulated an entire school system to get back to me, let me know. Welcome back to the Void Cafe. I'm your host, Karaman. Be sure to comment what kind of coffee you like, and let's go in and get right into part 2 of this story. Before we get into it, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Now, for those who are for some reason watching part 2 first instead of part 1, which I don't know what the hell is wrong with you. If you want the brief summary, in middle school I was attracted to somebody. That somebody was already in a relationship. They got out of that relationship, and then I started growing close to them, but as I grew close to them, the year ended, and I switched districts, which basically put me in a whole other school. If you want it in more detail, feel free to watch part 1. Now, before we move on to the changing school arc, I want to put a little bit of extra details in what we have beforehand, just to make sure that this resonates with you guys. See, on the last day of school, in the initial first year, right, I had the complete and utter option to tell them. And I knew that I was moving, so naturally that was going to be my last chance. But in the literal last class that I had with the person that I liked, I took one singular look at them, right? And I made probably one of the craziest decisions in my fucking life. I looked at the one person that actually ever walked up to me and decided to understand me, and I told myself they deserved better. And I told myself that after a whole basically year's worth of wanting to be that person, to be better with them, you know? And I know what you're asking, Karaman, why would you do that? And I self-sabotage a lot for a lot of personal reasons, but it just happens. And I'm not gonna say like, oh, I was just a young, dumb kid or whatever, because even though I was still very much so aware of my situation. The reason why I did that is because at the time, and a lot of the time in that little, I guess, season of my life, I just didn't think I was good enough for really anybody. Basically, what I acquainted myself to was, instead of like a genuine like step in somebody's life, I was more so just a guy that was there on the sideline. Just a casual geek who just stumbles into people's lives and gets to watch shit happen, I guess. And as that perspective solidified, it quite literally blinded me to what I actually was and what I actually wanted. When I was younger, I kind of moved around a bit here and there, so I was kind of used to not having friends that stick. I'll be that guy who comes up at the start of the friend group and then just says my goodbyes without really letting anybody know. And usually I would walk away and feel absolutely nothing, but when I walked away from that, I felt pain. With all my other friends there, it felt wrapped up, honestly. Like, I could say goodbye to them. If they were out of my life, it wouldn't really change too much, which I know that's kind of a, cold thing to say about friends, but it's also kind of true, especially when you're, kids and you don't really connect to people as much as you would, in your adult stages, where things are a lot less temporary and not based on, other factors, like your parents deciding to randomly move. But hey, I grew to be fine with it, okay? But I wasn't fine with it here. I still remember a car ride in the summer, just about like 10 to 15 days after I actually left, with absolutely no way to contact anybody who I was there with beforehand, to even slightly get a chance at getting their number. I kind of realized that I just let that go. I let somebody who I liked go. I let somebody who I'd be willing to love go. And the tears rolling down my face as I sat beside my brother coming back from a Burger King, you would think somebody died in front of me. When I tell you that that was the most depressing summer that I think I've ever fucking had, I cannot tell you anything else, brother. And what really settled the salt in is that I was going to an entirely new school. An all-boys school that required you to wear a uniform with ties. Now see, I don't necessarily talk about this too often, right? But when I was younger, I fucking hated dressing up anything dapper-wise. You know what I'm saying? Like, I fucking hated suits. I was a jacket guy all the way. Like, I would rather look like a crackhead than look like a man with a high credit score. You have no idea. So you better bet your sweet motherfucking bippy that when I heard that I was going to not only an all-boys school, but an all-boys school that required me to wear a fucking uniform? Oh, hell no. And let me tell you guys something, okay? You guys haven't actually seen me angry. You may have been seeing me pissy or playfully angry, right? But you do not want to see me when I'm actually fucking angry. You see, I did not just spend that entire summer just crying myself to sleep. No, that was only half the summer. The other half of that summer was spent in a cold, calculated rage. And what I'm about to say next is probably one of the craziest things I've ever done, and a lot of people are gonna think that I'm lying about this, but I'm gonna explain it to you in exact detail how I did it. I walked into that new school on absolute demon timing. My only objective, get back to them and tell them that you like them. And honest to God, I did not know how I was gonna do it either, okay? I walked into that orientation, right, and all I saw was just a bunch of fucking enemies. I saw the principal, the other students, I looked at the teachers, and I looked dead at the principal's eyes, dude. Literally staring him down Gone style, and I was like, oh, okay, so you're the principal. You seem easy. So I laid out the plan in my head. At max, I had at least 2 years in order to get back, but I needed to get back faster. There's absolutely no way of contacting anybody at that old school, except if I get there myself. But in order to get there myself, I had to go through the entire fucking school board. Every day, I would take notes, analyzing every single little thing that the teachers did, every single announcement that the principal made, every single move the students made. For every positive that I found, I made sure to mark down 3 negatives. And each day, as I got in the car with my mom, I told her how much I hated it. The taste of the sweaty-ass grilled cheeses and expired milk in the lunchroom. How the classes were boring, and I didn't much care for the other students' attitude. The fact that none of the classes that I was actually in was helping me in any sort of way. I did this for half a year. Every day, ironing my clothes, fastening up my tie, and the only thing on my mind was getting back. And even though it was a middle school, they actually decided to put us through some almost military-like training that I absolutely completely decimated out of raw determination. Also, side note, the gym locker rooms kind of look like one of those like 90s movies locker rooms, you know, about like a football sports kind of movie, you know what I'm saying? Like the kind of haze around it, you know what I'm saying? Like the orange haze, you know, that's what it looked like. Like that in real life, I did not know that was possible. There was one day where I was sitting in class and the principal called me down to the office, right? And he was having a discussion with me because I was actually a model student. Apparently, in my time of doing all of my hard work, I accidentally started becoming the cream of the crop. And I remember I was in the principal's office smiling in his face, and in my head I was just like, you are my biggest enemy right now. And let me tell you, he was giving me every compliment he could, right? That never swayed me even a single bit. I just want to say, every single speech, every single morning announcement this man has ever made, he has always marked his young men students, right, with a classic line. In this school full of young, discernible men, right? I want to raise men of distinction. Well, guess what? You did raise a man of distinction. Because from day one till half that year, I've distinctly figured out how to dismantle the entire school board. And yeah, sure, you're the principal, the teachers are the teachers, the school board is the school board. You guys technically all have more power than I ever would. But you see, the thing is, you're in my way. Over 100 days, sitting in there telling my mom how much I hated it every single day that I came back. And all it took, the final nail in the coffin, the bullet that the person finally bit. I heard one racist comment from a student. And the teacher heard it too, and the student got in trouble. But I turned that little mustard seed into a mountain. Once I told my mom about that comment, she finally decided to go with me to the principal in order to finally have that one last essential chat with him. I finally got to sit down and tell him what exactly I didn't like about the school. And because I was a model student, he couldn't refuse anything I said. I was the truth teller here. I let every single last ounce of hatred out in that one meeting, and it all correlated to him asking this one question. Cameraman, would you like to switch schools? Suddenly, after weeks and weeks of not feeling a single thing in there, I actually felt my heart skip a beat. This was it. This was my chance. And if I screw this up, I don't get another one. I told him yes. How would we go about that? And here's the real icing on the cake, everybody. See, when we moved, we only moved slightly out of the district from my old school. You see, the all-boys school that I got sent to and the school that I was previously at with the person that I liked wasn't actually too far from each other at all. So close, in fact, that the district separation didn't actually matter. So I asked the question, who do we need to go to switch schools? He said, you're gonna have to go to the school board directly. From that day forward, I officially left the school, and I went to the middle of the city to go speak to the people who decided who goes to what school themselves. We went through the lobby, walked through the elevator, everything looked so expensive. I walked through the office to the person who controlled everything. The graduations, the passes, who's in what grade, you name it. I was sitting right in front of them. My entire plan suddenly came together. So I laid out everything in front of them. In fact, I quadrupled what I told them compared to what I told the principal in order to lay it on them in the most effective way I possibly could. And let me tell you, the conversation was deep, but in that said conversation, I felt a pain coming back up. And for a brief moment, I thought about something. What if this doesn't work? What if I go back to the same school, sitting in the same tie, in the same CACs, listening to the same teachers, and living the same boring life? And I said no. I told myself half a year ago I made the mistake of not going for the thing that I wanted most. In that office, as tears were coming out of my eyes, I quite literally gritted my teeth. And in my head, I told myself, I am worth everything to me. Beforehand, I told myself that I was selfish for trying to pursue something. I told myself that I'm not a significant part of anybody's lives, that I can just walk in and walk away and nobody will notice. I talked myself into giving up my own happiness. Never again. And even on the off chance that I wasn't enough, if I went back to that school, I told them that I liked them and they didn't like me back. The fact that I even thought for a brief second that I can be the one there for them means that I can possibly step up to be. And because I know what that means, I refuse to let anybody take that from me. Even myself. So now I'm sure you're wondering how that meeting went. Well, we're back. Now I just kinda had to figure out where they are.